where life was sometimes hard. In fact, her kingdom at that time was largely at war with itself. Mary Alice's imagination, dreams, and playfulness provided her with the support she needed. Dreams are so playful and so helpful to us. Mary Alice listened to her dreams and acted and found herself wanting more out of life at a certain point in her adulthood. Because she never left her playfulness behind, Mary Alice's dreams provided a landscape to travel in and return to as she wandered Earth. Many fellow travelers of Mary Alice's dismissed dreams and told her that dreams are just silly. Why would you pay attention to them? Mary Alice grew in power and authority through her dreams. She began to blend her own unique vision with what she had learned from her teachers about dreams and their importance in creating a playful life filled with meaning. Through her dreams, she married her king. Her children and grandchildren thrived in her kingdom. Each morning, dreams were told and listened to, reflected on. Dreams of Mary Alice's foretold many changes. Through trial and error and risk-taking, and what some called foolishness, a deep ravine was replaced by a playful path of transformation and individuation. So now that you know a little bit about me through that story, I'd like us to pause my own notes here and have you face the person next to you, and one person share for just a few, like 30 seconds or a minute, why you're here. And then the other partner can do that. And I'll use a little gong that I brought just to tell you when to switch partners, okay? So I'd like to start by reading, after that, I'd like to start with reading a poem by Goethe. And one of the things I know about lectures or speaking is that brevity, levity, and repetition are really good. So a 2-hour lecture is really, it's a long time, especially on a Friday night. So, so that's my goal. So if I get too long-winded or too serious, I'm going to make sure that I come back to play because, you know, that's not the point of doing this, right? So, for instance, just so I don't get into this serious Jungian self, what do you think, Diane? I'll wear my little hands for you. All right. I wore these on Halloween, by the way. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this is called Goethe. This is the holy longing. Tell a wise person, or else keep silent, because the mass man will mock it right away. I praise what is truly alive, what longs to be burned to death. And so long as you haven't experienced this, to die and so to grow, you are only a troubled guest on the dark earth. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. The holy longing. Tell a wise person, or else keep silent. Shh. because the mass man will mock it right away. I praise what is truly alive, what longs to be burned to death. And so long as you haven't experienced this, to die and so to grow, you are only a troubled guest on the dark earth. Okay. So, the mass man being that person I was talking about in a couple of the stories who, when I was being my unique self, said, enough, too much play. We're a serious society here. Stop that. Or you're putting yourself way out on a limb and you're going to really look like a fool. You're going to fall right on your face. Good, I say, because that's how creativity works. And this line, what longs to be burned to death? How many people in our collective history have been burned at the stake in one way or another for being themselves? AKA, my standing up very innocently, the innocent child at these Jungian events and being branded and leaving sobbing. So the other piece of this is that to die, it's about the opposites. To die is to live. Been doing a lot of talking about our small deaths that we all have in our lives. Today, I'm sure you all experience some small death, if least of all, not your cells dying one by one. Okay? We're mostly made up of water, and we shift a lot. And we have so many energy fields we don't even know about. So we die in all kinds of ways, close and far out, way beyond the bounds that we know about. And those deaths help us to live up to the point when we do die and we enter another something. We don't know what. We all have our theories on that. So let me try this little device John passed me. So Jung and playing towards wholeness. Let's see. So let's see if I guess that's it. Okay. So that's me with my older grandchildren playing in the leaves, autumn leaves. So essential for us to get out and play every day outdoors. That might mean taking a walk in your neighborhood. That might mean doing walking meditation in your garden, or walking in the city if you live in the urban area, or just sitting outside by wherever you live, spending time talking to a neighbor. Or it might mean some great adventure, but an hour a day, many people, including myself, say is essential to keep a playful balance. And optimally, we play with all generations. And in our dreams, we play with our ancestors and those who have gone before us. And we play with change, and we play with possibility. Okay. So here is an image of the orphan. And the orphan is it's a part of the child archetype. We all carry this feeling inside us, one way or the other, about being abandoned, about being left behind, about not being wanted. And many of our children actually are orphans, many, many of them. This particular child was coming from, is an orphan in Eastern Europe, and that's where so this picture came from. John, would you be able to turn the film clip on? So I'm going to show you a little clip from Anne of Green Gables. Many of you might know that film.
Mrs. Hammond, ma'am.
Mrs. Hammond, I sent a reply to your letter just this morning. I'm afraid we cannot take the girl. We're overcrowded as it is.
But I've already had to divide my own sweet babies among my relatives, ma'am. She ain't my responsibility no more. You have to take her.
Come here, child. Tell me what you know about yourself.
Well, it really isn't worth telling, Mrs. Cadbury. But if you let me tell you what I imagine about myself, you'd find it a lot more interesting.
She was 12 last March, ma'am. Born in Halifax. Both parents died of the fever when she was just 3 months. I took her in from a neighbor last year to help out with the young'uns. But she's been in and out of orphanages ever since she was a wee thing, and she's not too proud for here.
And what were your parents' names?
Walter and Bertha Shirley. Aren't they lovely names? I'm proud they had such nice names. It would be such a disgrace to have a father called, well, Hezekiah.
Doesn't matter what a person's name is, as long as they behave themselves.
Well, I don't know. I read in a book once that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, but I was never able to believe it. A rose just couldn't smell as sweet if it were a thistle or a skunk cabbage.
I don't know where she picks up them fool ideas, but she's a real bright little thing, ain't she? And she won't be no trouble to you, I can promise you that.
So there's Anne, once again, looking for home. And as the movie and the story goes on, of course it came from a wonderful book, Anne is a little magpie. She's very chattery, she's very playful, she's very creative, and she's really called to task in this community where she ends up, to see if she's suitable, if she'll be a suitable, well, in this case it was supposed to be a little boy and she ends up being a little girl, and there's all these complications. But she wins them over. Her little, but her personality is really just a talkative, nonstop talk. And she ends up becoming very successful, very creative, and finding somebody to love in deep relationship as a young person. Now, so Anne is an example of an orphan in that little clip we saw. And there's also other different children that we carry. You know, the wounded child, the eternal child, the innocent child. And it's so important for us to get to know all the different parts of our child within. Jung talked about the child as being the beginning and the end. So the beginning, meaning pre-birth, all the way through to after death. So he wasn't talking about, you know, elders are sometimes talked about as, oh, they become like children. He wasn't talking about that. He was talking about after we die, we have the chance to be our essential selves. And that's what we're working towards in individuation. If you're individuating, you're becoming. You're becoming. So this is from the Tao. Return to the beginning, become a child again. And Jung says, and to the end. What can I do? Just click it? Okay. So here, again, here's an opposite. Here is a playful connection. You might have seen that little girl. She's like, really angry. And then it jumped to a less, a more innocent looking connection between the kids. So play, of course, has opposites and edges and many layers. And here's a picture that I chose to represent the innocent child. I guess Anne, she's not only an orphan, she's very innocent. She believes in possibilities, no matter what. I think I carry that quite a bit, that I want everything to work out. And so I do that really deep work and go into those dark spots and meet those dark figures so I can get to that place. And so before we take a break, I'll just ask this question. Why is it so much work to play? And many, many people have asked me that. Saddled up to me and said, why do I have to work so hard to play? And I think in the Jungian community, this is so for many people. Even though, we really talk a lot about the imagination, active imagination, playing with your dreams, but it can get pretty darn serious. So, in our culture, we have a lot of workaholism. We have a lot, and if you're in school and you're working and you have families, and it's just a given. We have a lot of single-parent families. Parents don't know how to play with their children. This has become. I just wrote an article about this because I've had so many parents come to me and say, "I don't know how to play with my children. I don't know how to play. What's going to happen to me when my children leave home? I don't know how to play." And they get in this kind of a panic when they hear what I do. And it's a real thing, because I've heard it so many times. And now lots of people are writing about this, and I think it's really good. There's groups like Kaboom and the National Institute of Play and the International Association of Play. So and the military and the Department of Defense are behind play as a resource for the military. That's like a huge, huge thing. The military and the Department of Defense are naming play as a way to balance out life and give strength to the mission. That just doesn't sound like it's real, but it is. It is real. So that's the field we're working in. Nature deficit disorder. I really don't like that term that Richard Louv coined, because it pathologizes the fact that we don't connect as much with nature in our culture now as we used to. We don't go outside as much. In one study, 60% of kids in this study would rather do video games than go outside. Preschoolers, 2 to 5, are watching 32 hours of TV, children's TV, but per week, 32 hours, that's a almost full-time job, okay? They're watching, those same kids are watching, or some big percentage, like maybe 40%, they're watching TV, these shows, from 8 to 11 p.m. So right now, while we're sitting here, and I'm standing here, they're watching TV. That's outrageous. And that's the field of dreams that we live in, that we need to change. We do value in our culture the arts. We want to eliminate recess. We want to eliminate vacations. We cut the kids' lunchtime in schools. This is happening across the country, and it's moving into other countries too because we tend to do that. So these are examples of why we need to work towards play, and that's why I do the work I do in play. So before we take a break, I'd like to pass out, or have maybe John help me pass out some index cards. If you don't have a pencil or pen, we have some. And I would like you to write on the card one way that you played as a child, that you remember that you really liked to play. And then I'd like you to just write a little short story about it, not very long, just something about it. And write it legibly, please, so it can be read later, or printed. That would be great. So we'll pass those out. And then we can take a break when you're done. If you could just put them maybe up here on the podium, that would be great. Okay. I guess John's up again. I'm going to read a couple of the cards, just at random, if I can. I like to play outside in the woods or at oh gosh, I can't read that, maybe. But anyway, near our home. Playing war was also a lot of fun with my friends. Vietnam was occurring during my youth. We also did a lot of fishing. Drawing and writing stories was fun also. I also like conducting at-home science experiments with household items.